This is the location of the former Sachsenburg concentration camp, an early concentration camp set up in May 1933. That was a concentration camp for 4 years, and this was the destination for many of those opposed to Nazism, who were rounded up initially in the wave of arrests that followed the Nazis being granted power, above all as from March of 1933. And today I want to address a question which is somewhat difficult, which is, how do we remember the victims of such places which later belonged to organizations which were criminal? And in this case, I am thinking of the Communist Party above all, because the communists, who by the 1930s were murdering hundreds of thousands of people in the Soviet Union, yet here they stood up to this dreadful regime, National Socialist regime here in Germany. Communist regime, of course, was in power here from, hard to say, isn't it? 1949, 1989, we could start seeing from the initial occupation of German territory in 1944. So there's a stone that goes back to those days, KZ Sachsenburg, 1933-1937. So here suffered 2,000 anti-fascists under the terror of fascism. 2,000, it says. Well, we now know there was many more prisoners than that here. About 10,000 people probably passed through the Sachsenburg concentration camp. We have the names of 7,200 of them. What does it mean by 2,000? Did it think there were only 2,000 at the time that was done? Or is it referring to those who might have been communists? I would suggest to you that of those 10,000, a lot more than 2,000 mightn't have been communists. Let's put that down to a mistake at the time. Indeed, when I saw that stone first time and walked past it, and I thought it said 20,000. I thought it was like sort of an exaggeration, which is often the case with things like this. Now here we have a memorial, and it is, I would say this isn't very communist in its look, because normally the people sort of look a bit different. And what can we see? There's 4 people. There's 3. One is really clearly suffering a great deal. I don't know why the other one. It's just a minute. I thought he had his hand on his leg. No, it's the one that's suffering the hand on his leg. And the one here is being supported by this man and the man behind him. So it's his 3 comrades who are supporting him as he needs assistance. And there we have a slogan which to me sounds as though it's like a sort of a work of literature. It's as though somebody, I don't know if it is or it isn't, I mean, I don't know, I haven't read any books in German or fiction, or only things I've read in German are fact. Und setzet ihr nicht das Leben ein, nie wird euch das Leben gewonnen sein. So if you save your life, how can you gain it? Something along those lines. And I'm sure I'll think of a better translation as soon as I finish filming. So the question now is, how can we remember these communist victims, bearing in mind what the communists did and already had done in the Soviet Union? And certainly people like myself who do try to remember those who fought against communism and fought against fascism, this does pose a problem. And it equally poses a problem for those who suffered under Nazism but then turned out to be persecute the same people as the Nazis persecuted, but under a different communist regime. So now, so therefore, I welcome comments below so other people actually think of this. Now, one of the problems is that people bend history to suit their own purposes, and recently we have seen from the what I would term the lunatic right, the racist right, because of Putin. The racist right, who may once have said, look at all these dreadful communist crimes, now are claiming that the communist crimes were not really so bad as all of that. And that's due to the fact that the Putin regime is now persecuting, or started to persecute very thoroughly, those who've sought to commemorate the victims of Stalinism. So it's the way the racist right has bent its ideology, now former ideology, to suit the political requirements of the time. To my way of thinking, people need to be remembered for what they actually did, and at the time that they did it. And of course, many of the communists who ended up in places such as this, they believed in the 30s and what they were doing, and were not financed by the Soviet Union or something like that. I think that is really important and needs to be remembered. Also, it needs to be remembered that in some areas the communists and the Nazis collaborated together against the Weimar Republic, and together they brought them to help bring it down. You have, for example, the transport strike in Berlin, famous thing where Goebbels organised joint protests by both Nazis and communists. Now here on the left we've got the former concentration camp Sachsenburg, and up there we've got the castle. The castle goes back, I think it's the 15th century, but it was there. The castle, the first prisoners were actually kept there in that castle. They were rounded up, brought to the castle, and in the castle they were marched down a set of stairs every day, and they prepared the beds and the bunks, I should say, and other things that prisoners would need inside the future concentration camp, as well as dismantling some of the machinery which is in there, because the spinning mill closed for business in 1930, a victim of the depression of the time. So anyway, put your comments below what you actually think, and that obviously is curious. I always find this as difficult for me when I'm standing or remembering communists, above all communists who were killed by the Nazis, and to think, yes, but what were their brethren doing in the Soviet Union, and what did they do here, for example, in former East Germany after the Soviet occupation of this part of Germany. Anyway, thanks for watching, all the best, bye for now.